We're in step 4, creating lasting habits based on your values. And the title of this video is Overcome Hurdles Causing Resistance to Permanent Habits. Mila Sweet, resources, reactions, difficult conversations, achieve more with less. Okay, video highlights. Remove the biggest hurdle causing resistance to habits becoming permanent. Review and repeat. So what are your biggest hurdles causing resistance to habits becoming permanent? For me, right now, I'm just going to go from the heart is being too busy, not having clarity on things, and also allowing too many opinions to come in. So it's great to have outside opinions. It's great to have a filtering system, but sometimes all the opinions just have you go like this. And you just don't make a decision. You don't have clarity. Other times I have to assess if the curriculum is still working for me. So some curriculums are awesome for certain seasons of life. And then other times they're just not appropriate. So I find that the older my children are, the more I would like to teach different kinds of curriculum to have more context, but also to develop the critical thinking. Because a lot of curriculum, regardless of what their actual belief is, wants to be right and not want to identify different ways of thinking and being. And I'm really open to sharing with my children what actually exists. I have my views, I have my beliefs, but I still think it's super important to educate your children about everything that's out there so that they can understand. And it's not just from like, you better not, you should. Yes, there are things that I think keep you safe, like don't touch the stove when the fire is on. And then there's things that are really just like, this is my personality, this is how I've settled. For instance, with friendship, I may do friendship different than my children, and I need to make room for that and to allow them to cultivate friendships in a way that's helpful for them. They are way more social than I am, and I have to make room for that. I am social, but I do not need a lot of social interaction. And so if we have values and they're social and I'm not, we may go about implementing our values completely different. So we have to look at that and figure out the best way, because that can cause issues or tension for overcoming hurdles. So for you, we want to remove the biggest hurdle causing resistance to habits. It can be a person, a thing. It can be your lack of wanting to implement something. So how do we tackle that and really own that? Maybe it's the way one of your children acts or how they disrespect you. And so for me, how can you teach them if they're constantly being disrespectful? I would say look at creating a better relationship first and then working through that. And also building a relationship based off honesty and not like lying, like, hey, if you don't eat this, a worm's gonna grow in your stomach. Just teach the child about eating healthy and encourage them in lots of different ways to taste things and try things. Let them pick out things from the store. I'm not a fan of doing things that way, and I think it's really important to give space for your child to grow and to be honest about the hurdle and work through it. So you want to review these hurdles and take time to review them often. I'm constantly looking through them. Usually quarterly, I'm looking through hurdles, looking through changes, and willing to make sure that my goals are still happening regardless of the season that I'm in. And sometimes that means I have to change things around. Maybe I can't do a 2-hour walk and I only can do 90 minutes, or maybe I have to break up the walk. Maybe I have to join a sport or walking during a meeting and change my schedule. There's lots of ways I have to figure that. Like in the winter, it's really dark in the morning, so I have to figure out other ways to walk. I start walking later, and then I have to get another walk in at another time. And then you want to repeat this reviewing process because it's necessary. I would say you repeat it how often you think that you may struggle. If you struggle daily, think about it daily. Set aside time for you to actually think about it. If you need to monthly, do it then. But I tend to do it when there's a major change or I'm in a major slump where I'm just like, ugh, I don't feel like doing this, or maybe I'm just not making progress at a certain point. And then I just review and I say, okay, am I doing too much? Am I saying yes to too many things? What is my focus? Are my actions lining up with that focus? So to review your homework, you have to say, what are some past hurdles you've overcome? How did you do it? What learnings can you apply to the present and future hurdles? Got a lot of hurdles? Focus on the 1 or 2 to implement a plan for those. There's a domino effect of doing this. Using focus creates superior results. So if I had 20 hurdles, I would probably figure out the one that's going to make way for the other one. So for example, if I had to change all the curriculum and schedule some new classes and my child just did not listen, like every time I say something, they're just not listening, they're throwing things, I would probably just work on them listening and stop throwing things, because then the other things don't sound so intimidating or hard. But if they're still throwing things and I schedule them in a class with someone else and they're throwing things and hitting me and yelling, everything just seems a lot more challenging. So I'm going to deal with one that's going to make the other things easier. So 20% of your effort produces 80% of your results. That's the Pareto principle. And so I would apply that in this scenario. All right, there is a check-in right after this. If you don't have access to the check-in, you can totally just sign up to Thinkific. I'm super excited to have you. If you would like to leave any other feedback about making this more engaging or things that you've learned, I would love to hear from you. That is all.